Hello Americans channel. This video is made by free videos from Storyblocks, and these images and video we use just for explanation, and it's free use also.
Woman thought she bought a cheap thrift store ring. She couldn't have been more wrong. At first, it seemed like just another thrift store find. A rainy afternoon, a dusty corner, and a cheap-looking ring marked $4, no sense. Nothing special. But that small, forgettable purchase would soon unravel into something no one saw coming. What Emily discovered inside that ring didn't just surprise her, it made headlines, stunned experts, and uncovered a story lost for over a century. Emily had always enjoyed browsing secondhand shops. They felt like quiet treasure hunts, full of old things waiting for new stories. On that particular Tuesday, she ducked into her usual spot downtown to escape the rain. With no goal in mind, she wandered past racks of vintage clothes, glassware, and half-used candle jars. In the far corner, behind a cracked display case, a small golden ring caught her eye. It didn't sparkle. In fact, it looked a little sad, tarn, and plain with a cloudy stone that didn't seem worth a second glance. But something about it made her pause. Maybe it was the way it seemed forgotten. The handwritten tag said, $4.00, costume jewelry. Emily shrugged and brought it to the counter. The cashier rang it up without comment. It wasn't anything exciting, just a little ring to add to her collection of quirky finds. She slid it into her coat pocket and continued on with her day. That evening after dinner, Emily remembered the ring and pulled it from her pocket. It felt heavier than she'd expected. Solid, cold, with a band that had just the slightest bend. She slipped it onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Odd, she thought. Usually thrifted rings were too tight or too loose. She wore it around the house as she cleaned up. At one point, under the bright kitchen light, the stone caught her attention. It shimmered faintly, not like a gem, but like light moving through old glass. She held it closer to the bulb, turning it slowly. That's when she saw it. There, inside the stone, were tiny lines. At first, she thought they were scratches, but the more she looked, the more they seemed intentional, like writing. It didn't make any sense. Why would someone go through the trouble of carving letters into a fake stone on a cheap piece of costume jewelry? Emily pulled out her phone and tried to zoom in with the camera, but the letters stayed blurry. Frustrated but curious, she turned the ring under different lights. Each angle gave her a little more. The marks weren't just real, they were deep inside the stone. This ring was hiding something. She downloaded a magnifying app, steadied her hand, and slowly brought the ring into focus. After a few tries, the letters became clearer. It read, patented 1912, VD. Her brows furrowed. 1912? That wasn't modern at all. And VD sounded more like an old signature than a random label. Emily felt her heart beat a little faster. This wasn't some mass-produced accessory from the 90s. The details, the weight, the date, it didn't add up. Why was a $4.00 ring marked with a patent from over a century ago, and more importantly, who or what was VDD? Emily couldn't shake the strange feeling the ring gave her. She kept turning it over, studying every angle. The letters inside the stone weren't random scratches. They looked carefully etched, as if someone had placed them there on purpose. She wondered how something so old and precise had ended up in a forgotten thrift store case. Curious, she took more photos with her phone. The images kept coming out blurry. She tried adjusting the lighting, holding it near different lamps, even using a flashlight. Nothing gave her a clear view, but every time the light passed through the stone just right, those faint letters seemed to come alive. Frustrated, Emily downloaded a different magnifying app and tried again. This time with steady hands and a bit of patience, she finally managed a clearer image. The words stood out. Patented 1912 VD. It sounded more like something out of an old history book than a thrift store bin. That night, she couldn't stop thinking about it. She typed the inscription into a search engine and started digging through antique jewelry sites. Page after page showed similar styles, but no exact match. It was like chasing a ghost through online archives. Then, something finally caught her attention. On a quiet British museum blog, buried in a post from 5 years ago, she found a photo. It showed a set of antique rings with faded gold bands and foggy stones, eerily similar to hers. The caption read, "The Lost Collection of the Duchess of Marlborough." Emily stared at the image, her heart skipping. It seemed impossible. Surely hers was just a look-alike, a replica at best. But the similarities were uncanny. The shape of the band, the setting of the stone, even the faint decorative pattern on the side. She clicked through the post, reading about how one of the rings had gone missing in 1914. By morning, Emily decided she needed help. She looked up a local jeweler with good reviews and brought the ring in. The store was small and tidy, filled with old clocks and display trays. She placed the ring gently on the glass counter and explained where she'd found it. The jeweler, a quiet older man, barely looked up at first. He picked up the ring casually, expecting a basic costume piece, but as he turned it over in his hand, his eyebrows slowly rose. His eyes narrowed, and he looked at Emily differently. "Where did you say you got this?" he asked. She explained again, "Just a local thrift shop, nothing special." The man nodded slowly, but didn't smile. "This isn't costume jewelry," he said. "It's something else entirely." He didn't elaborate, just asked if he could keep it for a closer look and promised to handle it carefully. Emily agreed, her curiosity now fully hooked. That evening, Emily received an email from an address she didn't recognize. The subject line read, "Urgent ring you brought in today." The message was short and a little unsettling. "Please call me as soon as you get this. I've found something you'll want to see in person." That's when she knew this was no ordinary ring.